What would you do about, this is actually a funny intro to a kind of a serious question because this affects our children, our neighborhoods, our parks. What would you do about cell tower intrusion into our neighborhoods? If we begin this time with Sam. Oh, I'm sorry, Jim. Okay. No, thank you. Okay, this time we are beginning with Sam.
The cell tower, I have to admit to you, I mean, I know what I've read in the paper, and I know it's been a serious concern in the neighborhoods here. There's been a huge division, pro and for and against. You know, as far as where I stand on it, you know, I believe that there's room for discussion when the schools want to put up these cell towers to bring additional revenue into their schools. But the problem exists is when they don't go out into the communities and they ask people how they feel about it so that there can be adequate discussion about it, and that they don't go ahead and put the cell towers up and anger everybody. It's just the way, it's kind of the way, you know, things work. There has to be a good process involved.
This is interesting. About 20 years ago, when I was in the county attorney's office, just by happenstance, somebody put a file on my desk and said, "John, we want you to fight this 500,000 volt power line that Florida Power wants to build in the backyards of our citizens along Northdale, up there in Northdale, New York." I didn't know anything about electromagnetic fields. I didn't know about the possibility of cancer coming from that. But I had to do my research because the county commission at that time had taken a stand against it. Now, folks in these neighborhoods feel extremely concerned about the proliferation of cell towers in our neighborhoods. And I think that they have good right to be concerned. There is a lot of research out there and a lot of unknowns. We have to have cell towers, but a lot of other communities have figured out ways to do it where they're not 300 feet tall and next door to people's homes. And God forbid we should ever put them close to our children on our campuses. Thanks.
As a member of Tampa City Council, this issue came to us several times. And when I tried to evaluate what seemed most fair to me was to consider the aesthetic implications for our neighborhoods. Because I think that the quality of our neighborhoods is very strongly based on how does it look, how does it feel, will it maintain the value of our homes because of these qualities. And in some cases, like on Henderson, there's one that looks like a pine tree if you really use your imagination. It wasn't close to any homes. It was kind of shielded visually from the street, and that seemed pretty acceptable. When we had one that was at the end of the street here, where it was very close to homes, and there was no visual blockade at all, it seemed to me unacceptable. So I think it's something that has to be considered on a case-by-case basis, and you have to consider the entire context, what it's proximate to, and how it works.
The location of cell towers is one of those little quirks in the Land Development Code. I remember it was back with the Planning Commission when we first started having cell towers about 20 years ago. They could only go on industrial or agricultural land out in the middle of the country. And somehow, somewhere, it got within the Land Development Code that schools could have cell towers. I'm not sure how it happened. It should not be allowed, straight up. There's no way there should be a cell tower next to a school. And it's very easy to fix with the Land Development Code. And the cell phone industry is not going to go away until there's a cell tower every 1,500 feet, about every quarter mile. 3G, 4G, 5G, 6G, whatever it goes up to. It's like a constitutional right, you know, that you've got to have your wireless wherever you go. Well, there's caution out there. And I think you need to rework the Land Development Code and make sure that you don't have cell towers on school grounds. Very simple solution.
Several years ago, TaxWatch did a study for Hillsborough County to promote economic development and government efficiency. If you're familiar with the study, what will you do to fully implement the TaxWatch study? The questioner says it was never
and that is city and county relations. Is there anybody out there, maybe by a show of hands, who is not only not bickering, but they need to be working closely together. They need to be consolidating departments little by little over the next 5 or 10 years, so pretty soon, you could look at city county government and pretty soon you might not be able to know which one's which. And that will save you tax money.
The other way to save tax money is by being very strategic in how we charge people for services. There have been a lot of questions, not so much in the city, but in the county, about senior centers, which is something that a service that the county provides, and also child care facilities. And in order to help you meet the rising costs of everything, there have been fees charged that weren't there in the past. And some people have been sort of, they can't afford to have their children in these services they need. I believe very much in a sliding scale for public services like this because we want to have children in healthy places during the summer and after school, and we want seniors to have the advantage of the sociability. Some people can afford more than others, and I think that in deference to everybody's different ability to pay, we should make that option available to make our services affordable for the residents of our community. This kind of customer friendliness could pervade all of our community services.
Isn't it a shame that we have so many task forces and different people coming from outside the area to tell us how to improve our services, but we can't remember what they were or why they came in? And that's what your Board of County Commissioners does. You have politicians, your Board of County Commissioners, as opposed to problem solvers. They've never done a task force I didn't love. If you take a look at my website, HILLSBOROUGH.com, there's 30 different task forces, 30 different committees that they had running at any one time, from hurricane reforestation to the economic stimulus task force. And when you don't have subject area experts or people with some job skills in your Board of County Commission, that's what you get. They had to bring in people from the outside. And guess what? When that commission's gone, when the next board comes on, all those promises are forgotten, and you bring in another task force.
Recommendations in that Florida Tax Watch report. They only implemented 20 of them. They could have saved over $50 million. Now, that's accountability, and we need to make sure that we are demanding that accountability, and that you are, from your county commission. If somebody comes in and does a report like that and say taxpayer dollar, we need to do it. I am fortunate. I do sit on Florida Tax Watch, Education, Performance, and Accountability Commission. I do know what accountability is all about. I know how important it is to communities. I think we need to bring Florida Tax Watch back in, have them redo the report, and then we need to implement their recommendations. You need to hold us accountable for those recommendations.
All right, I've got time for one more question to these folks, and then we're going to allow them to have a 1-minute closing remark. And here we are, a beautiful community surrounded, we're a peninsula, we're surrounded by water, but this is a great question. With water being such a problem for the foreseeable future, what would your solutions be about? And let them listen to you.
It's obvious that we need to build more sustainably. What we can do is a number of things. We can expand our reclaimed water for irrigation, because right now we're using potable water for irrigation, which is a terrible loss. We can change our codes, which currently disallow cisterns and other ways of saving and using our rainwater, and instead of disallowing it, we can encourage it. We can require new buildings to use water more efficiently, because conservation is the smartest thing we can do. And we can get the city, the county can get the city to do something with the water that we're currently putting back in the bay, which isn't a good thing in terms of excessive nitrogen. We can work collaboratively to reuse it in an effective way. And I'm really proud, as I said, for the endorsement of the Sierra Club, because I initiated ways to get more water flowing down the Hillsborough Hillsborough River, and sustainability has always been something that I've been a huge proponent of.
Water is a big issue across Hillsborough County and across Florida. I'm not sure if you're aware that Hillsborough County government is not responsible for its own water supply. It has ceded responsibility for its water supply to Tampa Bay Water. So currently in the comprehensive plan, the Board of County Commissioners, when they approve a land development change or approve a subdivision, they just assume that Tampa Bay Water is going to be able to provide the water. So that's why the seats on Tampa Bay Water are so important. I think we need more reservoirs, at least ones without cracks in them. And that's one of the issues we have in Hillsborough County's large projects. We can't seem to manage them very well. The desal plant down in South Hillsborough was a disaster from day one. The Board of County Commissioners needs to take more responsibility for your water supply. They've ceded that responsibility, and when you give up responsibility, you don't do anything about it. So I think we need to take it back. Thank you.
I was in the state legislature when Tampa Bay Water was formed. It was my very first year. And honestly, today, I believe that Hillsborough County is totally not getting their fair share of what the agreement was supposed to be. As a county commissioner, I would be a strong leader and a strong force on Tampa Bay Water to open that agreement up and make sure that Hillsborough is not the only one paying and shipping out their water to everybody around us. I think it's blatantly unfair that that is happening. And it's causing us, quite frankly, the problems are trickling down to you as residents. No pun intended, but it's, you know, that Tampa Bay Water agreement was done at your expense. And we have a lot of problems today because of that. And that's one thing I bring to the commission is a lot of knowledge about that, so to get it rectified.
When you elected me to be your city councilman years ago in 2003, I realized that there are different ways you can approach the job. You can just show up on Thursdays, sit there for a few hours and make some votes, or you can get real active involved. And I chose the latter. Y'all remember before the recession, everybody was talking about one topic, green, okay? Green this, green that. It was really a pretty exciting period of time. And one of the things that I did during that period of time for you, okay, was I looked around and I said, there are green ordinances being passed all over the city. Why don't we have one here in the city of Tampa? I went to the administration and they said, well, you know, like Jim said, we'll take it to a committee and it might take a few years. And anyway, long story short is I drafted a green ordinance. And part of that green ordinance addressed irrigation issues, gave incentives to builders to build green, to use water more efficiently, as Linda was indicating, to build houses that use cisterns and all that sort of thing. If we have greener houses in our new construction, that's part of the solution. I also think the other part, as Jim said, is ultimately we might have to build another reservoir, but we sure as heck need to make sure that it doesn't leak and that we have good, efficient control over Tampa.